There are tons of myths about electric cars, and I've been hearing them over the last 9 years of driving EVs. And you see it more on social media now than you used to see it in public. But you still see people in public asking some of these really silly myths like they're true. This video wants to be the ultimate myth-busting video about all the myths that you've heard about EVs, with some fact-check truth about what it actually is around EVs. And some of the truths can sound quite damaging to EVs. So I do recommend that you watch the whole video. And the last one I've got is one of my favourites. Myth: electric cars are not as environmentally friendly as people think because they still have to charge off fossil fuels. Fact: although some electric cars will be charging in certain regions from fossil fuels, an electric car gets greener and more environmentally friendly over its lifetime, which means even over its entire life, it's actually more environmentally friendly than its ICE alternative. But also, the grid all over the world is getting greener. More wind and solar is added to the grid. So even if you're in a very dirty part of the grid that still uses a lot of fossil fuels, over the course of your lifetime of your EV, there's going to be more wind, there's going to be more solar, there's going to be more hydro. There is more clean technologies coming on the grid all the time, and especially here in the UK and the US, where you're seeing the grid green up at a rapid, successful rate, which means that by the time your electric car's finished its life, it could be running on almost 90% of green energy. Myth: electric cars only have a short, limited range and are only really capable of doing short distances. Fact: although early electric cars only had a range of about 60 to 100 mile range, modern electric cars sold today have a range of over 200 miles, including in the winter, and some even new electric cars being sold today have ranges of over 300 mile range. However, the fact of the matter is, the majority of most people will not drive 200 miles in one stint without a stop, and especially with the cars that can do 250, 300 mile range on one charge, people will definitely need a personal rest break during that journey. And we're going to move on to one of the other facts in a minute about how fast an EV can charge and why these rest breaks are actually well suited. Myth: electric cars are not as safe as their gasoline alternative vehicles. Fact: electric cars go under the same rigorous test that ICE cars do. They don't get any special treatment, they get exactly the same test procedures, especially here in Europe where we use the NCAP procedure, but rest of the world use exactly the same techniques. And in fact, there is one advantage of electric cars that many people skip over. They have a battery at the bottom which is very heavy, giving it a low centre mass of gravity, which means the chance of a rollover in an EV is severely reduced. Myth: electric cars catch fire and they explode and last for days. Fact: yes, electric cars, if they catch fire on NMC chemistry, which is the majority chemistry on most EVs these days, that can catch fire and last for days. Now, it doesn't explode at the same kind of velocity that gasoline does. So if you have a petrol car and it leaks fuel and there's any ignition source, a flame, a spark, anything, or even a hot engine, you know, like that would happen, say, in a crash where hot fuel could drop in an exhaust, that could be enough to light the gasoline and basically kill you. It could blow up and kill you or seriously maim you. With an EV, to damage a cell to the point that it catches fire, you'd have to be in a really serious crash so that it's damaged the casing of the pack severely. If you're in a crash that bad, you'll be getting out the car either fairly slowly, or if you're unconscious, there should be plenty and ample time for a fire brigade to get to you, because the fire doesn't rapidly take over. It just takes a while to go from cell to cell. So each cell will catastrophically blow each other up in sections. They don't all just ignite in one go. They're separated in several sections, and it will just take a while for them to get to each one. This is why people say they burn for days, because it's contained in a source and then moves to the next source that it's contained in. So it gives firefighters, people of escape, ample time to get out. Now, newer chemistries, LFP, if that gets punctured, it just vents hot gas. There's no flames, there's nothing, it's just hot gas. And a lot of EV manufacturers are moving over to LFP because it also contains no cobalt, which is the mineral that people will always talk about being mined by children. The next one is also a new cell by BYD, that's the BYD blade cell. Again, it's a form of LFP chemistry, and if you puncture that one in a crash, it does nothing. It's completely inert when it's punctured. It does absolutely nothing. So which one would you rather be? Would you rather be in a petrol car with gasoline, you know, flammable fuel in it, or an EV? I know which one I'm picking. Myth: electric car batteries only last 5 to 10 years. Fact: some early EV Nissan Leaf batteries, that wasn't the best chemistry, are still going today. Yes, they don't have the same range that they used to, but that still doesn't mean that they're not a usable EV. And in fact, you could take the battery out of that and still use it as battery storage. It's still got a purpose. Now, they were a different type of chemistry, way different to some other modern cars used. I've sold Renault Zoes that are way past 5-10 years old, and they're still going with very good state of health. There's some early Teslas and they've got different chemistry again, and their state of health is extremely good. There's even an EV Tesla that's done way over 1 million miles, and that's still going on an original battery pack. So it's worth bearing in mind that when someone tells you your EV battery pack's going to run out after 10 years, manufacturers put an 8-year warranty on it. They only put a 3-year warranty on petrol engines, and petrol engines don't blow up after 6 years. Myth: electric cars take too long to charge, which makes them completely impractical for longer trips. Fact: although charging rates massively depend on which electric car you've got and a couple of various factors including charging infrastructure, modern electric cars can charge from a low state of charge of about 10% to 80% in less than 30 minutes. And even newer electric cars that I've seen recently coming out on the road, including the new Porsche Taycan, can do that time in 15 minutes. Seeing the average rest stop at a service station here in the UK is 30 minutes. Electric cars are perfectly suited to match that time. Myth: my electricity bill will go through the roof. I won't be able to afford to pay for electricity anymore at home, and this is a really valid reason why I shouldn't be getting an EV. Fact: now, I've heard this rumour quite a lot, and it always gives me a giggle, because what people forget is, yes, your electricity bill will go up when you get an EV. That should be obvious. You're going to be charging a car at home. But if you can charge a car at home, it is by far the cheapest form of transport, of any transport, because if you don't have a petrol car anymore, you won't be buying petrol. So that money that normally went on your petrol bill is slightly being moved to your energy bill. So fuel is irrelevant here. So you're not buying petrol anymore. It's going onto your electricity bill, but the saving you're going to make from not putting fuel in your car and putting electricity in your car is huge. So it should actually, believe it or not, in some circumstances, include covering your entire bill of what you would have normally spent on fuel, covering your entire electricity bill at home. And if you pick the right deal, it can save you even more. Now, if you go to evnick.com/energy, there's a code there to switch to Octopus Energy and get £50 when you switch over. But it also has some information about some of Octopus's cheapest energy deals. In fact, at the time of making this video, one of them is 7.5p per kilowatt hour, which means that your electricity rate for your home and car charging will be at 3p. Now, if you want to see more about that tariff and the OVO energy tariff, then check out this video here. And if you want to charge even cheaper, consider looking at solar on this series here.